This seems to be kind of also another litmus test for how to be in MAGA world. I mean, is this the new reality for this MAGA era of politicians, that they don't back down when they're confronted with facts? It's clear as day. The FBI put out statistics. Crime is going down. You don't have to twist the facts.
The FBI quietly comes out with this new data that shows actually violent crime is up 4.5% during that time frame.
The only person making an accusation that people are not getting what they've asked for is Trump, falsely claiming that the administration is withholding resources because of political affiliation. That is just not true.
Well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is facing major backlash after confirming reports that a supervisor ordered disaster relief workers to avoid homes with Trump yard signs.
There's actually not any evidence linking any of Hunter Biden's wrongdoings to Joe Biden.
You are incorrect.
You think that Biden would actually pardon Hunter Biden, despite him saying
Yes, as a father, he would.
No.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Breaking news. President Biden has just pardoned his son.
Guys, we got to talk about this propagandist, Abby Phillip, getting cooked. She got humiliated so badly. I love it when people come on and call out her BS. She loves to just create her own facts. And then if somebody says something even slightly off kilter, not necessarily wrong, but in disagreement with her made up fraudulent facts, then she'll try to actively fact check them and not even let them finish what they're trying to say, like she tries to do with base Scott Jennings all the time. But today the shoe was on the other foot because she got humiliated by base Scott Walker out of Wisconsin. Now, speaking of Wisconsin, there was 3 races yesterday. I'm sure you all, if you're watching this channel, are probably aware of. They had a Supreme Court race and they had 2 races out in Florida for the 1st and 6th districts out there in Florida. Now, the Republicans, 2 Republicans won in the 1st and 6th district in Florida. Okay, so massive victories, which the left is currently coping over and trying to pretend as though it wasn't that massive of a victory.
Democrats massively outfunded and outraised the Republicans in these Florida House races, but still lost by double digits in both of the congressional districts. So what's your takeaway from these races, and what do you think that this means? What implications does this have for 2026?
Well, I mean, Florida won. Donald Trump won by 37 points in November. In Florida 6, Donald Trump won by 30 points. These are deeply Republican districts. Why in the world were they even competitive? Why were Republicans panicking in Florida 6? And so as a result, they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to stop an embarrassment from happening, and they were still embarrassed because the Democratic candidate in both districts dramatically overperformed the Trump numbers in deep red Florida.
Even though obviously this was a massive victory, they're trying to pretend like it wasn't because, well, the Republicans didn't win by a large enough margin. Stupid logic. First off, you still lost, so what are you even talking about? Secondly, it doesn't matter because you didn't set any records out there. Don't forget, Florida used to be a swing state, and these seats used to be able to go back and forth. Now they're not. So the only reason it even was this close is because you didn't have people like Donald Trump on the ballot out there to motivate the vote. And the only reason the Democrats even have so many people turn out is because, for one thing, Democrats always have a lot of people turn out for pretty much everything. And secondly, there is blowback to the current administration. Every administration has things kind of shift the opposite direction because people are infuriated at what's happening with the current president. So it doesn't make sense to read too much into these numbers at all. This is literally, on average, how things tend to go.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, actually. There's always things to learn. And for the Republicans, you know, it's a party of low propensity voters now. And so did any of them actually show up in any of these races in Florida or Wisconsin? Or was it largely they just kept doing what they've been doing, which is showing up for Donald Trump and nothing else? That's one thing to be studied. I do think the Republican takeaways tonight are going to be this. In Florida, Democrats burned about $20 million on 2 congressional campaigns where both Republicans look like they're going to get around 57% of the vote. Yes, not as high as what Donald Trump got, but certainly commanding victories. Democrats were down in the low 40s, Republicans again at 57%. Wisconsin, the voter ID initiative that Donald Trump was heavily involved in and heavily supported, that's a big issue for Republicans and conservatives. Last I saw, it was passing at about a rate of 60-40, so they're going to like that. I agree with you that Democrats have a nice win on the Supreme Court here, called it early in the night. But for Republicans tonight, I do think a lot of people were sort of bracing for impact, that, what was going to happen tonight, and what do we find out? Republicans are okay in their Florida districts, and voter ID is still a popular thing. There's a bunch of people that voted for a liberal Supreme Court justice and turned around and voted voter ID tonight in Wisconsin, which shows you the popularity of that issue, which has been a Republican issue.
Now, as for the Supreme Court seat out there in Wisconsin, I will say that the conservatives in Wisconsin or the independents really probably should have paid a lot more attention to it, because Hakeem Jeffries himself admitted to this prior to the election, that they wanted to gerrymander out there.
In Wisconsin, that's a 50-50 race, because we know Wisconsin's a 50-50 state.
Yeah.
And we have a strong Democratic candidate. Whoever wins is going to determine who has the majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Why is that important? Because there are gerrymandered congressional lines right now in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 50-50 state, as I mentioned, but there are 6 Republicans and only 2 Democrats out of an 8-person delegation, because the lines are broken.
Right.
And as soon as possible, we need to be able to revisit that and have fair lines. The only way for that to be even a significant possibility is if you have an enlightened Supreme Court.
For those who need a reminder on what gerrymandering is, effectively you redraw district lines to advantage your political party, basically. Like, hey, it's more Democrats over here. Oh, we about to get all of them up in here, so we're going to make sure that we win. I guarantee you that they're working on this right now. They probably already drew up the plans before the election was even over. So I guarantee you it's on somebody's desk today, and they're just plotting and scheming and trying to see what the hell they could get away with, because that's how the Democrats roll. And with a Supreme Court justice being a Democrat here, the odds are definitely stacked in their favor. Now I want to go ahead and react to Abby Phillip getting absolutely eviscerated by base. Scott Walker here. Let's get into it.
I want to go back to Elon Musk for a second, because I mean, it is true that he spent $20 million on affiliated groups that were involved in this race. Is it a risk for Republicans to put all their eggs in that basket? Not only did he spend the money, he came to the state.
Right.
He came to the state. He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security. Well, that's exactly what he said.
He talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched him. Okay. He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not one of them said that.
That's
what protesters said, but nobody there actually said that.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are. If people believe the lies that people are saying about that. But that's not at all what they said. If people believe that Medicaid and Medicare is going to be touched, that's just a flat, outright lie. What he talked about are people who are over 120 years old, who clearly are not alive.
Well, the reason I brought it up is
Social Security or Medicaid.
Okay, well,
that's totally wrong. I think
just to sort this out, the reason I brought this up is because the claim here is that there's massive, widespread fraud, and that's all they're addressing. That's obviously a disputed claim, because it's not true that 120-year-old people are getting Social Security checks. The checks stop at a certain point automatically, because those checks and balances are already in place.
But those Social Security numbers get counted for various parts of the federal government. So they don't get a benefit directly to those people, but they count for money that gets allocated to different departments in their budget. And they shouldn't be. If somebody is no longer alive, they shouldn't be able to count that.
I guess my fundamental question was, what are the risks here of Elon dabbling in elections for Republicans going forward?
Well, again, I think in the end, he's going to have to continue to make the case. Part of the reason why, when we talked about our recall, what flipped things for us early on in that recall process, Time magazine called me Dead Man Walker. And the reason was because all the narratives coming out from the press, coming out from the left, were about all these horrible, egregious things. Once we started to give examples of the things we were actually doing, not the things the press said, not the things that those our opponents said, but the things that we were actually doing, when we ended up going before the voters in the final election in the recall, we actually won by more votes than we did. So I think that what's paramount for him or anyone else aligned with him is keep giving actual examples of what they're doing. Set aside things like Social Security and make it abundantly clear that that's not being touched. But if there's waste, fraud, or abuse, spell it out, make the case, and bring it to the voters.
Boom. Stop playing with us out here, Abby. Like, I love picking on Abby Phillip because she seems like she's so smart. She's so smug. She always trying to fact check people, but she's not ready for real facts. Most of the time when she's fact checking, she's touting BS and she doesn't even know what the hell she's talking about. Like the other day, she was trying to say that if you're an illegal alien, you're entitled to due process.
Isn't this exactly what we denounce other countries for doing? Not giving our own citizens, when they get wrongfully detained around the world, our own citizens the due process that they deserve?
Well, I think multiple things could be true. Number one, I delineate between American citizens and everyone else. If you're a U.S. citizen, I put you in a different category.
On due process, that's not a distinction that the law makes.
Then if you've come here and broken our laws and committed violent acts or murdered and raped and whatever, I put you in a different category.
When it comes to the law and due process, that is not a distinction.
Well, if you'd like to argue that Trinidad should have the same rights and that you get as an American citizen, go ahead.
Here's the argument. Hold on a second. The argument is
so you're saying that a terrorist can walk across the border and become effectively a U.S. citizen?
That's not what I'm saying.
Scott, look at me. Okay. You and I are talking. You and I are talking. Okay. What I'm saying to you is that the law does not make a distinction between U.S. citizens and everybody else when it comes to being accused of crimes. Are you saying that that should not be in place? That if you happen to not be a citizen, you get to be thrown into a jail with no process at all?
I'm saying that these people are effectively terrorists. They walked across our borders illegally.
Okay.
They are violent, and I don't really want them here.
But doesn't the government have to prove that they are who they say they are?
Correct.
That's all
we're saying.
That's all.
I mean,
you can say
eventually,
it's not a concession that you like Trinidad and Tobago. It's just a question of the basics of civics in this country.
I think eventually the government will have to show all of its cards on everybody that they have detained, deported, or done anything to in this arena. But there is no doubt that the Trump administration is rounding up effectively terrorists who came across here illegally, committed horrific acts, and do not need to be in this country.
I want to go ahead and clear this up. For anybody who wants to argue this point, due process is if you are going to be criminally prosecuted. Okay, if they're going to send you to jail, throw away the key, or if they're going to give you some other type of punishment, that's what due process is for. It is not to prevent you from being deported. Due process does not apply for deportations. Okay, it does not. It applies for criminal prosecutions. That's what the Supreme Court said. So you cannot just say, we think an illegal alien killed somebody, so we're going to execute them with no trial. That you cannot do. But if you're like, hey, we think you're an illegal alien, we want to get you the hell up out of the country, and we accuse you of some other crime, yeah, they could deport you for really any reason. You don't even need a reason. You can be deported just for being here illegally. So people like Abby Phillip are liars and propagandists. And the sad thing is, I actually think that this lady believes that she knows what the hell she's talking about. But you guys see the videos. Read the Constitution. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She just spouts off left-wing lies. And to try to pretend that these leftists are trying to pretend as though this is some massive victory today. Yeah, maybe for Wisconsin, because obviously they think that they're going to try to steal more congressional seats, federal congressional seats after the gerrymandering. And yeah, that's obviously a threat. However, they got cooked in Florida. And this is with the alleged people being pissed off at Trump and did you vote for this and all of this stuff. Nah, y'all still got murdered. What the hell type of weird cope is this? Imagine if we lost the 2024 election and we were like, but we got really close. Like, you freaking losers. This is what an L feels like, guys. It's okay The Wisconsin thing, we'll get that figured out. You know, we'll just have to keep on fighting, because the fact of the matter is the 2024 election was just a battle, but the war wages on. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
DEI would have ruined our country, and now it's dead. I think DEI is dead.